So it is the nature of Ojas to want to keep things in balance. One of the things that we can say about Ojas is that it is very easy to become disturbed. If, again, we turn to Charakacharya, we find, again, in the Sutrasthana that he mentions, that those who wish to preserve the Ojas in the body will take care under all circumstances to avoid disturbance of the mind. Because even though disturbing your body is a good way to disturb your Ojas, the more damaging influence on the Ojas comes from the mind. The more damaging influence on your balance, the balance of your organism, comes from the disturbance of the mind. And the disturbance of the mind, fundamentally, all comes from upada. Upada means allurement. Having your awareness be dragged away from your organism to become fascinated by something that it feels that it wants or needs. We have, in the modern world, a class of individuals who focus on creating and promoting allurement. We call them people of advertising. And obviously, advertising can be useful and can assist us, in fact, to find things that we need to find. But often advertising is turned to generating desires for things that we not only do not need, but that are actively dangerous to us. And especially nowadays, the people who follow the path of advertising have studied very carefully the nature of the human being, and they have studied which buttons on the human being should be pressed in which sequence in order to generate the appropriate Pavlovian response. It is an immutable law of Ayurveda and yoga that wherever your awareness goes, your prana will follow. And wherever your prana goes, your breathing will follow. When your attention is taken away by something external to you, and you start to become fascinated by that thing that is external to you, you are externalizing the prana that you've gone to a great deal of trouble and effort to internalize. You dragged in some of the prana when you were breathing. You extracted some of the prana from your food. If you were a yogi, you have collected some prana by doing trataka. And if you were a meditator, you have even been able to take some prana from the universe simply by opening yourself to the nature of the universal reality. But whatever prana has come into your organism can very quickly leave it, particularly if you allow your attention to be dragged away by something. In the modern world of today, it is abundantly easy for our attention to be dragged away because there's so many things to drag it away. Things that we crave, that we want to grab hold of, things that cause us to want to approach towards those things, and things that we are fearful of. It is much easier for governments to control people with fear than by bread and circuses, though governments use both. Bread and circuses, though, are much more expensive than fear. Fear is cheap, and it promotes itself. In order to encourage your own individual self to be healthy, you have to be very careful not to have your attention drawn away either by something that you're attracted to or by something that you are terrified of. In both cases, your prana is being dragged away along with your intention. The intention and the attention work together to keep the prana moving in whatever direction you point it in. As the prana moves away from the body, so automatically does the ojas become disturbed, because the ojas has to work even harder to keep the integration of the body, mind, and spirit together when the prana is moving away. If there's insufficient prana in the body will still be filled with energy, but it will not be pranic energy. it will be Vata energy. Prana and Vata are both created from the air element. The air element, the only quality it has is the quality of motion. So there will still be the energy of motion in the organism, but the difference between Prana and Vata is that Prana is something that is aware of how to center itself in the body. It is aware of how important it is to have itself be located in the subtlest and the deepest parts of the organism. And it is well aware of how important it is to keep the peripheral nervous system calm. Vata, on the other hand, is eccentric, outward expansive, moving in the direction away from the center. Eccentric means away from the center. It encourages, Vata is always promotes the activity of the peripheral nervous system. It encourages the limbs and the head and the mouth and everything except the central parts of the organism to have lots of energy, creating that kind of nervous energy that has to be used up, boiled away, instead of stored and carefully circulated. When the prana is being stored and carefully circulated, its rhythmic, balanced, slow movement encourages the proper activity of the fire element. And when there's a good amount of the fire element in the system, then we can call that desirable quality of the fire element tejas, in the sense that it promotes not just the digestion of everything that has to be digested physiologically and mentally, it also promotes the quality, the most subtle quality of the fire element, which is the quality of radiance. It encourages the awareness to radiate in the same way that light radiates from the sun. As long as tejas is working in a very calm and subtle kind of way, then the various juices in the system will be in a position to be transformed in a very efficient kind of way. So there will be the extraction of the major amount of essence from everything that's in the system, and and whatever is the residue will be very much reduced and minimized. In order for this to happen, the prana has to continue to move calmly and steadily. When the prana is not moving calmly and steadily, that means the mind will not be moving calmly and steadily, and vice versa. So again, the mind should remain as calm as possible at all times. It is especially not a good idea, if you're going to get upset during a crisis. If you must freak out, please freak out at some time when everything else is calm. During the crisis, the most important thing to do is remain calm. When everything else externally is calm, then please have an absolute hissy fit, if you like. Because when you freak out during the crisis, you're adding insult to injury. You're dramatizing the effect of the crisis on your system. You're creating all the more ripples in your system that are going to take even longer to come back into a state of being relatively inert. So everything that we can do to make the organism calm is going to promote calmness to happen in the future, because when the mind is calm, the prana will be calm, the tejas will be strong, the ojas will be being well created, and that in itself will cause the organism to be better integrated so that it can withstand more disturbance over a longer period of time. When, on the other hand, there is disturbance of the mind, then there will be disturbance of the prana and the tejas, insufficient ojas will be created, and automatically a person will lose that quality of integration that will keep them, relatively speaking, healthy, and that will keep them from aging too quickly.